Welcome to the video, everyone. Thanks very much for watching today. In this short video, I'm going to be sharing with you something tragic. So I'm going to be sharing with you my failed launch of a product over the last 2 months. And this is a problem that I have seen time and time again, especially over the last 2 or 3 months. So I'm going to be talking you through what happened and namely, most importantly, how to avoid it yourself to make sure it doesn't happen to you. Hope you guys enjoy the video. If you like content like this, please hit that like button, turn those post notifications on and subscribe. I hope you enjoy the video. To the video, everyone. Thanks very much for joining me in this video where we're going to be discussing a failed launch of mine, right? I'm going to walk you through what happened, the mistake I made and what I did to rectify the situation and how you can avoid doing this also. Just to give you a bit of background, I've seen this happen more frequently over the last few months. I'm not sure why. It might be coincidence, but I've been having feedback from students that this has happened even when only minor changes are made, and one wouldn't assume that this problem, which I'll share with you, would occur with these small changes. I was aware that this was an issue, and it was something that I overlooked. Right, I thought that I could get away with it, and it turned out that I couldn't. So I'll walk you through it, guys, and it's something that will literally just destroy your launch completely, right? Obliterate it into space, right? It's gone. The launch is gone. It will fail. And what I'm talking about, guys, is losing the buy box to yourself. So if you're not familiar with what the buy box is, it is a very important button on your listing. If you're a private label seller, if you're selling a branded product, if you're a reseller doing retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, it's very important. If we click on a listing here, I'm just going to click on this. I don't sell scissors, by the way, but we can see here, I'm not going to go that one because that's an add-on item. Let's have a look. Go something a bit more pricey. Okay, let's go here. So we can see, and I'll shrink my head in that corner there. Get away, get too big. You can see there, we've got a buy now button on the listing. Now that essentially means that this seller, and I believe it's a private label seller, we'll just assume that it is, they are eligible, they are buy box eligible, which means if you click that button, you are purchasing from Tin Z, right, or whatever they're called, right? You're purchasing from them. Now, you can imagine it's quite a bit. It's a big issue if you lose that button, right? Imagine that button was not there. So let me give you an example of that before I talk a little bit about how this can happen and the effect that it has. So if we look at this listing, go a little bit down. I did just find it. Hopefully I can find it again. Don't lose it for you guys. There it is. There is no buy box. Right now, we can see on the right side here, there is no button to add to cart. There is no buy now button, and you can't purchase this item on this page, right? If you click here and we go a little bit deeper into the listing, you can add it to your basket and you see the seller. Now, just if we have a look, this listing is doing very, very badly. So it doesn't have any sales that are on record, and its ranking is pretty bad. Now, how will this impact you, right? And how is it such an easy mistake to make, guys? Honestly, like, I was aware of it, and I have been very careful in the past with what the changes that I make, but it's still happened, and it could have been avoided. So when you are a private label seller, you are automatically eligible for that buy box, right? You're not eligible for it if you're not a private label seller, and there's lots of sellers, you've got to fit a lot of criteria. But if you're a private label brand and you're selling on Amazon, you're the only seller on your listing, you are going to be eligible for the buy box. However, there are criteria that you've got to satisfy as your time progresses as a seller. If you want to keep the buy box as a private label seller, you will need to have good account health, performance metrics, a low order defect rate, low returns rate, good customer service, all these different things, an optimized listing. All these things factor into keeping the buy box. But all these things go without saying. This is what we focus on. You have to do all those things. But something that can really destroy a launch, and something that's happened with my product, I've rectified it, and I'll tell you guys how to do it in case it's happened to you. But what I did was when I launched my product, I ran a sale. Now, I launched a product that should have been selling for around £20 and I launched it at £5. Okay. Now, I was aware that of the issue of losing the buy box, and I still made the decision to sell a quantity at that price, right? Because I had customers who were ready to buy and they wanted to test it. So I wanted to get that initial spike to BSR, etc., etc. Now, the issue with doing this is when you sell, especially if it's at the beginning when you've just launched and Amazon's got no sales data for your listing, right? They don't know how much customers want to pay for it, how much it's worth, other than you telling them. You could price these scissors at £1,000. If you told Amazon that they were worth £1,000, they wouldn't believe you till people started buying them at £1,000, and then they'd start to they'd believe it was more credible, right? So because I priced and I launched this product and I priced it just for a number of sales, it wasn't a large amount of sales at all. It was about 10. I priced it at £5. The sales came through, and I then went to put my price back up to what it was, right? And that price was where I had my fixed margin. It was for all of my products and different brands, it was very important that I have that fixed margin. Granted, you do often run a slightly lower price when you launch, and I do encourage that slightly lower. But this drop of 400%, if it is 400%, I think it is. It's four times less than what it should have been. Was a tremendous drop, right? So what happened was when I went to, after about 4 days, the sales had come through. Might have even been a day or two. I put my price back up to 20, right? So when the price went back up, instead of retaining the buy box, which I'd had at £5, my listing looked like this. So there was no price underneath it. There was no, it removed the RRP. There was, and it just had a little button that said one new offer, and you clicked on it and you saw this. Now, you can imagine the issues that brings forth, right? Firstly, one of the big problems when you lose the buy box is that you cannot run PPC campaigns, right? And we all know that PPC is an important factor and an important part of a launch. So it crippled me in that sense that I couldn't use PPC to rank and I couldn't get sales that way, right? So it's a big problem. Now, as well as not being able to use PPC, that if you have the buy box on a listing, if you don't have the buy box on a listing, 90% of people will not buy. So you're essentially losing out on, firstly, 90% of customers who are looking at your product. And as well as that, you can't even advertise that product using PPC to even get people to look at it in the first place, right? So two incredibly difficult situations that sort of fuel each other, because you can't get PPC on to actually get it visible. And when it is visible, no one buys it, right? Only 10% of people buy it, 1 in 10 people. So you can imagine what your click-through rate's like, what your unit session percentage is like. It's very, very bad. Now, I increased my price up to 20 and there was no buy box. So, I thought, okay, maybe that was a bit drastic. Let's try £18.99. Wasn't there. Dropped it down to 15. Nope. Still lost the buy box to myself. One new offer on my listing. No price, no PPC. Dropped it to 10. Nothing. And I could do this all day, but I dropped it right the way down to £5.99. And that was the highest price that I could actually sustain and actually have the buy box attached to my listing. Now, that's a big problem, right? When you've launched a product and you make a mistake and you sell a quantity at a price that was too low and you lost the buy box to yourself, the issue is you've got no margin, right? I was making a loss of, I don't know how much, but I worked it out at the time, and it was a loss. For every sale that I made, it was a loss. Now, the only bonus of this is that you do make a lot of sales. You can imagine if you're selling a product that should sell at 20, that's a good deal, and they're selling at $5.99, they start to fly out. And that did happen, which is good in the sense that you rank very, very well very quickly. It's almost like doing using Viral Launch or other launch software to get a product ranked for different keywords. Ranking was crazy, but I was obviously flying stock out making a loss on every sale. So that's obviously not good. Now, the buy box, you can read up a lot about it. It's a mystery, right? It is a mystery. If you ask Amazon, what can you do? They say, can't do anything. You are eligible. You're a private label seller, but you need to just leave it over a certain amount of time, and it will average out and come back. Now, you've got choices in that situation, right? Choice one, which I didn't opt for, was to leave my product at £20 roughly, slightly more, without the buy box, right? No PPC. And just, you will find that sales drip through, right? People, crazy people go to page 4, page 5, page 10, and sometimes you get lucky and they just, weirdly rank organically on certain search terms. And you'll find that sales do drip through. Now, that option would mean that I retained that margin, but sales would have been, pathetically low, which is a big issue. And as well as that, it would have prolonged the period that I didn't have the buy box. Now, I have experience with this. You wouldn't think so, making this error, but in the past I have done this and I haven't had an issue as drastic as this. It hasn't lasted this long, and I was able to regain it quite quickly. But this didn't happen this time, which is why I think they're tightening up, which is why it didn't work so well for me. But the way and the reason that Amazon is worth mentioning, the reason they take your buy box away from you is, firstly, it's to stop counterfeit goods being sold on Amazon at really, really low prices, right? So Amazon think it's just worth that amount. It was just worth £5. They could potentially be counterfeit, and when you're trying to increase the price by 400%, they just don't give you the buy box. They think it's overpriced, even though it wasn't. It's just an algorithm. And as well as that, it's to stop gouge pricing, which is like increasing your price by a large amount. Just like, for example, today it's Black Friday. I think I'm on about £1,200 in sales today. And if I just doubled or tripled the price of my products today, I probably would have done pretty well. But they don't like you doing that, and they know that people do it on days like today, and they stop it by preventing you from doing it by not giving you the buy box, making you not buy box ineligible. Now, the only way around this, and it depends how quickly that you regain the buy box, depends on how drastically you reduce the price. Now, I reduced it by 400%, right? 4 times less, £5 to 20. And I've been able, and what are we now, the 29th, about 6 weeks roughly, I've been able to, creep my way up, inch by inch, back up almost to my sale price. And I've done that every 2 days. I've gone into my Seller Central and I've upped the price by £1. Sometimes it gets rejected and the buy box goes. If it does, I put it back to what it was, and I keep, maintaining the sales velocity. The more sales velocity, the quicker you'll be able to do this, which is why leaving it without a buy box it means you can't use PPC, which means you're not going to be getting the volume of sales, which is why I mentioned it will last so much longer. So by having a high volume of sales, I was able to increase, about £2 a week, I would say £3 a week, a little bit less. And it's taken about 5 or 6 weeks to get right back up to that point. And it has affected the launch. There's been positives. I'm ranking very well. Sales are very good now. And it's, been a bit of a weird, you could look at it as a bit of a weird launch strategy. But, I've made a loss on those units. I've reordered. So, it's going to be coming in now at the right price. Everything has been fixed and rectified. And, sales are going very well. And, they will continue now at the right price. But I had, and there's information on this in the course. I was aware that this could happen, but, I didn't take my own advice in this situation. And I'll be honest, I probably should have. It was just a technique that I wanted to use to get lots of sales, and I was going to be following up with reviews and Spike, their algorithm. I believe that I could get it up a lot quicker. If it only took a week, it would have been okay, but 6 weeks is too long. A week, if I could have gained that buy box back, regained it within 7 days, it would have been okay, but that wasn't the case, guys, and it's not worth it, right? Especially if you're on a tight budget. If you launch a product, and I had a student who dropped their price, they halved their price, and they just made a couple of sales, right? And there's information on this within the academy, to be careful with how much you drop the price. I advise not to do it, not to lower the price more than 30% of your selling price, which again conflicts with what I did, which was stupid. But there are consequences, and you're going to be making a loss on the units, and it will make it difficult then to reorder, and it's an issue. And this student of mine they had this problem. I won't mention this person's name. And their products are absolutely churning out like there's no tomorrow. That 20, 30 units a day, and they are not making a loss because it wasn't as drastic as my price change. But they have now, it's an issue, right? It's if they could have just bumped the price back up, the 50% or whatever that they've gone down back to their main target price, everything would have been fine. But they weren't able to do that, and they're now following the steps that I did, and they have almost got back to the point where they need to be with regard to their fixed profit margin, I believe at about 30%, 35%, and the sale price where they need it to be, and sales are continuing. But it's something that you want to avoid if you can. I know that we do discounted sales when we launch, but there are major issues from losing the buy box, and it's something, especially if you're not experienced and you don't know what to do. There's not a lot of information, guys. Some people say, time's a healer, just leave it at leave it with at its full price without a buy box, and it'll eventually sort itself out. Well, I can imagine for me it's taken 6 weeks to do it, making 100, 200, 300 sales and going up £1 at a time. There's no way that buy box would have come back by now. It would have been nowhere near. I would have said I'd have probably got a couple of quid on top of it after 6 weeks instead of like 15 by doing it my way, slowly and gradually, increasing in small increments over every few days, which meant that you can manage it well. But when I said a failed launch, it was a hiccup, right? And it was something that I needed to address and deal with, and it was something that I have dealt with. And I'm now, because and I believe it has tightened up, you could alter your price more. When I started selling on Amazon, they weren't as strict, but they clearly are tightening up on this. So I'm going to be introducing more content on how to avoid this, and if it does happen, how to rectify and resolve the problem. But just a quick one, guys, to give you a heads up, right? It's such an easy mistake to make. Imagine you hadn't watched this video, you didn't have the correct training. Like I said, there's information on this in the course. Do not drop it lower than 30% within the Elites Academy. I went against my own advice in this instance, and it came back to bite me in the ass, right? People make mistakes. I made a mistake in this scenario. But it's so easy. You might want to, you want to lower your FBA fee and your referral fee, and you want to make a load of sales at the beginning with customers or whatever you're launching to, whoever you're launching to. And then once you've made those sales, you think, great, I'm ranking, quite well, second, first page. I'm going to put my price back to where it needs to be. And then boof, you've lost the buy box. No PPC, no sales, and there's a big issue there. And you've then got to drop the price down and work your way back up, which is just a real pain. So I hope this was useful, guys. I hope it was. It gave me a little bit of a challenge. It's nice to have a challenge now and again. So it was a challenge for me to fix this, and it is obviously fixable, and the launch has actually gone very well now, and the product's doing well. But it just delayed things, and it caused problems, something that you can avoid yourself. So feel free, guys, got any questions, drop them in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to answer you. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.